Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, the world-famous Boracay Island will accept more tourists from all over the country starting October, but a test before travel policy will be imposed on all incoming visitors. Baguio City is also set to reopen in October, allowing tourists from Region 1. But with the recent COVID-19 outbreak, how does the city plan to ensure the safety of travelers? And with the government exerting efforts to revive the tourism industry, we find out other areas poised to open to domestic travel soon. Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo-Puyat joins us live. Boracay Island is preparing to welcome tourists starting October 1st, but acting Mayor Floribal Bautista tells CNN Philippines this plan is still awaiting the official go signal from the country's interagency task force. Visitors to the island will be limited to those coming from areas under general community quarantine. The tourism department says visitors must test negative on their PCR test 48 to 72 hours prior to their travel to Boracay. They must also have pre-arranged reservations. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo-Puyat. Secretary Puyat, welcome to the source and thank you so much for your time.
Yes, good morning, Pinky, and good morning to everybody listening to the source.
So, Secretary, it's the Boracay Interagency Task Force that gave the go signal for the opening of Boracay on October 1. This still needs the go signal from the Interagency Task Force.
Yes, last Tuesday night, we had a special board meeting, of course, with Secretary Simatu as the chair of the Boracay Interagency Task Force and with Sec Año of the DILG. And we met with Governor Miraflores, and we've already discussed the opening of Boracay October 1, including GCQ areas. As you mentioned, you were mentioning that we all agreed that RT-PCR, which is a swab test, 2 to 3 days before travel time. So pre-travel, you have to be negative for this RT-PCR test.
Okay, but Secretary, when will the IATF actually give the go signal for this? Because we're just looking at about a week before the opening.
Yes, we have a meeting with the IATF this afternoon, but I am confident that this will be approved. Yes.
So mukhang confirmed na po yan ng October 1. Okay, so while we await that...
Because the main, of course, Secretary, I'm very grateful to my colleagues in the IATF because they already know how much we need to restart the economy, to restart tourism. Tourism was the hardest hit because of this pandemic. And they know that we in the DOT, we are very careful, we are very cautious. We have to make sure that health and safety protocols are in place. So actually, Boracay has already been open to Western Visayas, initially June 16. And then finally, they asked that age restrictions be lifted, and it was lifted. So great, we are grateful that so far that it was like a dry run, and it has been successful. So we are confident. So when the LGU finally asked us if it would be possible to open to other MGCQ areas, but including NCR, we agreed. But of course, we have to make sure that the health and safety protocols that were implemented last June 16 will be really more strict. We have to implement this. We have to be very strict because it's like all eyes are on it. Boracay is the first to open up to everybody because, like for example, in Boracay, in Baguio, as mentioned, they are only going to be open to Region 1 first. And likewise, Region 1 will be open only to Baguio. But with Boracay, since they've already started last June 16, they've already had sort of a dry run. So we are confident. But I really, Pinky, I might fly also before October 1. I want to make sure that all the health and safety protocols are in place. Also, we also have about more than 200 hotels and resorts with about more than 4,000 rooms already with health and safety protocols in place. We've already given more than 200 hotels a certificate of authority to operate. We personally check each and every hotel that they passed all the standards. So the confidence is there, but of course, nothing beats like being on the ground. We might do that the same as what we did in Baguio.
So let's talk about the details. So ang sabi niyo
Yes.
po, ang papayagan on October 1st, pending the approval of the IATF, which of course are confident they would give the go signal, are people from MGCQ and GCQ. In other words,
GCQ.
MGCQ pwede, NCR pwede rin pumasok.
Yes.
So is there
Yes.
an age restriction?
No, we are proposing no age restrictions because Filipinos travel as a family. So as long as they are negative with the RT-PCR, of course, no symptoms, follow minimum health standards, we ask that no age restrictions to go also to Boracay.
Who are allowed? Are foreigners allowed to enter Boracay?
As long as they're in the Philippines, if they're in the Philippines. So right now, it's for domestic tourism. But if the foreigner is already here
Okay.
in the Philippines,
So-
of course, yes.
Pwede yon. And let's
Pwede,
talk
as long
about
as,
the
yeah.
requirements because this is 1 week to go. Okay, so
Yes.
sabi niyo po you have to have pre-arranged reservations. Obviously,
Yes.
sa hotel at
Yes.
kailangan yung ticket nandun. This is the question on the PCR, Sec Berna. So, ang kailangan po dito for 48 to 72 hours. So, let's, I'll give you an example. Let's say I were to leave on Friday, on a
Yes.
Friday. I should be able to have a PCR test done on Monday. So hopefully that by Thursday, makuha ko po yung resulta ng PCR test ko so I can fly on Friday.
Yes. Basta 2 to 3 days before leaving because normally a PCR test will take about 1 or 2 days before you get the results. Of course, when we were talking to Governor Miraflores, I was also saying that I hope the tourists, once they swab, they stay home first because you are only negative at that
That's where I wanted
particular
to go.
time. Yes. So you, after swabbing, stay home. Don't naman go around the whole, to the malls, etc. Stay home after swabbing. So that we can be assured that before you leave for Boracay, that you stay negative. But this is
That's where I
also the
wanted to go, Sec
requirements.
Berna, no?
Yes. This is also a requirement for Baguio.
Yeah, Sec Berna.
Negative RT-PCR 2 to 3 days before going to Baguio.
So this relies on the discipline of that person traveling to,
Yes.
for example, Boracay. You're
Yes.
enjoining them, please, maiwan muna kayo sa bahay, wag na kayong lumabas. But that's not foolproof. Ano po? Pwede ho kasing mag-test ako ng Monday, pagkatapos Tuesday or Wednesday, gumala po ako, may puntahan ako, magtrabaho ako.
Correct.
And that doesn't
Oo.
really assure me na pagpasok ko po ng Boracay, ay hindi na po ako infected because as you said, you're only as good as that day you were tested.
Correct. That's why we are also asking all the tourists, be responsible tourists. Because let's say you have any maging magka-symptoms ka, o they affected na lahat sa buong flight mo. Actually, prior to this, we have had already flights to different parts of Palawan, in Quezon, and in Bicol, also negative RT-PCR 2 to 3 days before travel. And so far, it has been successful. But that's why we are asking also the tourists that want to go to Boracay, kasi excited talaga lahat to go to Boracay.
Yes.
Be responsible tourists. But of course, meron din tayong, for example, may konting sintomas pagdating, kung may temperature, you will be immediately brought to an isolation facility. You will be tested again. And pag negative, pwede nang pumunta sa Boracay. Pag positive, kailangan
Okay.
natanggalin sa Boracay. May mga ganon protocols. So you have to be, of course, yung always naman yan make sure that kung may konting ubo, konting sipon, kahit na negative, huwag ka nang tumuloy kasi hindi mo sure kung if it's cold, but it's always safe to be
You could
cautious.
be positive, yeah.
Oo, kasi it's the whole airplane. But kaya nga, Pinky, we've been pushing for the antigen testing. The antigen testing kasi, it's more accurate than a rapid test
15
kit.
minutes lang.
15 minutes lang. But of course, the gold standard is still the RT-PCR. But approved na siya dapat yung antigen testing before boarding the plane. But then WHO, they weren't as confident about it because kulang pa ng studies. That's why we are going to make pilot testing in Baguio. Yung Baguio, yun na munang amin magiging pilot test. Ang mangyayari, we will be testing about 3,000 people, both isasabay ang RT-PCR and antigen to see the correlation kung positive ba, kung negative ba. So, we will do the pilot testing and we hope we are successful with the antigen testing. So, para right before boarding talaga, mas mabilis kasi ang antigen is only 15 minutes. But as of now, even internationally, pag nagta-travel, they really ask 2 to 3 days before traveling, negative sa RT-PCR. That is actually what is happening all over the world. But this is only for domestic tourism. So we are just basing it on what other countries are doing. So ganun talaga, negative RT-PCR before traveling. And then of course, let's say on that day you have to travel, if you feel feverish, you have cough, huwag ka nang tumuloy. Kasi you have to, you have to be a responsible tourist.
But Sec Berna, there are other factors that need to be considered, ha? For example, I understand, no, and I'm sure may mga responsible individuals, pero meron ding iba, without saying that they're irresponsible, may sipon. Sabihin nila, wala naman, konti lang yung sipon ko, pwedeng allergy lang to. They will still decide to go dahil nakabook na po sila ng airplano, nakabook na sila ng hotel, at sasabihin nila, baka hindi po sila i-refund. Is there an agreement with the airlines or even with the hotels that if somebody so decides na ayoko nang pumunta, medyo masama ng konti yung pakiramdam ko, ay siguradong i-refund sila or pwede silang mag-rebook? Or will it be such a hassle that people will probably say, itutuloy ko na lang to?
Oo, that was what was discussed na dapat kasi hindi mo nga alam the day itself, parang may sore throat ka or sinisipon ka, pwede mag-refund or mag-rebook. Oo, because times are different now. We all have to adjust to the new normal. And that's what we have been discussing also with the airlines and the different resorts na dapat ganun na yung norm because I always say na, by the way, Boracay is COVID-free. So dapat maingat talaga. So yun din ang with the airlines and the hotel, pwedeng refund or rebook. Or I think they always prefer rebook sana. Alam ko, in 1 year, they can rebook. May 1 year rebooking, So, yun ang natin. All the airlines and the resorts have been more responsible with regards to that. Diba dati, parang ayaw nilang refund, rebook. Pero ngayon, ganun na. Kasi that is the new normal. Kasi kawawa naman, I understand, kawawa rin naman ang turista. Nandun na siya, hindi natin alam, sinisipon, yun na nga, hindi na kasi pwedeng ipaliparin kasi may sipon or inuubo.
Okay.
So, yun.
Okay. Sec Berna, there's still so much to talk about, and also I want to talk about Baguio and other areas that may open soon, tourist destinations here in the country. But we need to take a very short break. The Source will be right back. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo-Puyat. Sec, what about this? You mentioned it a while ago. So nakapasok na po siya or nandun na po siya sa port. Ano po? Meron siyang sipon o kaya mataas ang fever. What is the protocol there? May iwan ho ba sila sa port? Dadalhin ho ba sila sa isang ospital doon? May isolation center ho ba doon para hindi na
Yes,
sila
meron.
makapasok sa isla? Let's talk about
Oo,
that first before the actual getting inside the island.
yes. Meron kasi, the last time I was there was last June 12. And then, na-upgrade na yung hospital doon. So, meron na rin isolation facility. At kunyari, may sintomas. In fact, they have a COVID hotline. So, for example, pagdating, wala pa sa hotel. Pagkadating sa port, may symptoms, etc. Or nakitang may symptoms, dadalhin agad sa isolation facility at itetest ulit. Tapos, for example, yun na nga, hindi pwedeng lumabas kung COVID positive. Pinag-usapan na kung COVID positive, kailangan umalis na sa isla and will stay in a quarantine center. Meron ng molecular, may COVID center na ang Aklan. Meron na doon and they already have 3 RT-PCR machines para mabilis lumabas yung test results. And in fact, we were able to get an RT-PCR machine from the Philinvest Group. So, ayun. So, what we are working on also, because the COVID testing center is in Aklan, we are working on another one for Boracay lang para mas mabilis kung may testing. But as of
Yun
now,
po.
it's in Aklan, but it's only a few hours away. Pero right away, i-isolate siya.
So, hindi pa nakakapasok ng isla. So, you naka-land na po yung individual tapos nagkaroon po ng sintomas. From there, dadalhin po siya in a isolation facility in Calibo,
yes.
I'm assuming, which is 2 hours away.
At
doon din po siya itetest.
Only one airport will be open. The one in Caticlan. Only one airport will be open para nandoon na. Di ba there are 2 airports? Oo. We only agreed na one airport will only be open.
And Caticlan.
Yes. Sa Caticlan muna. So doon may isolation facility.
In Caticlan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Only one airport will be open.
Okay. So malapit lang dapat yon kung nandoon ang isolation facility.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And then di na makakapasok sa isla. My next question is this. Nakapasok na po ng isla and then you're staying in a hotel. In the hotel, you find out that you have symptoms. What happens?
Yes.
Ano po yung protocols ng mga hotel? Is there an isolation area specifically for possible symptomatic patients or dadalhin ho ba ito sa papaano po yun?
May hospital na ngayon, may hospital ngayon sa Boracay. Finally, may hospital. All hotels have a COVID hotline. So immediately, kunyari may sintomas, tatawagan ng COVID hotline, dadalhin na, it's about 5 to 10 minutes away sa hospital and may isolation facility din doon. Doon muna magsistay and will be tested.
I see.
Yes.
I see. But they will be tested, but the test will have to be brought to
yes, the COVID testing center. It takes about
yung lab mo.
It takes about 8 months kasi to build a COVID testing center with all the biosafety features. But we, of course, are also proposing na meron mismo sa Boracay. So, yun. As of now, that's what the protocols are.
Okay. And then, is there a cap on the number of tourists per day?
We already have a carrying capacity, but of course, hindi na pwede yung kasing puno ng before. But of course, right now, we only have 200 plus rooms that have a certificate of authority to operate. So yun pa lang, magkakakap ka na because it's a very limited number ang rooms available.
Okay. And is there a cap on the number of days a tourist can actually stay?
No, wala. No cap. No cap at all. Wala. In fact, ngayon, Pinky, ang uso na nga ngayon, work from anywhere. Yes. So, if you want to stay more than I heard that a lot of the hotels have slashed their prices up to 75% off. So a lot, as long as malakas ang internet, they're opting na to rather either stay in the beach or what I just came from Baguio, they have long staying guests. Nandoon na for the past 4 months. So it's now work from anywhere. So actually, we're really encouraging long staying guests because you can just be there, you have strong internet, and you can work from anywhere.
Okay. And then what happens, Sec Berna, on a worst case scenario na biglang magkaroon ng positive cases? Is there a number that you're looking at? Pag mag-5 positive cases, isasara ho ba ulit ang isla?
Yeah,
Is there
definitely.
such thing that that the local...
Yes, we will be, when we talk to Governor Miraflores, all the tourists kasi will have, like in Baguio, a QR code. And that QR code, everywhere you go, you have to scan it in every place you go to para you know where you've been. So probably what we're going to do is first,
I see.
let's say may positive case in a certain hotel, yun, we have to actually probably inform everybody else, baka ma-quarantine na sila. That's how it's going to be. And we have to contact trace. Like, so kailangan may QR code everywhere they go. So malalaman para magka-contact tracing. But I hope, yun na nga, so all the places na yung positive na kung saan siya pumunta, everybody else na nakasama niya will have to be informed. So we might have to, we're looking at the number if we have to maybe close the hotel for that period of time, and also the other accommodation facilities or the other places where the tourists went to.
But I guess what's really important also, Sec Berna, is the status of that hospital in Malay that you're talking about. Have you seen it and is it equipped?
Yes, it was already equipped. In fact, that's why I was there last June. And thanks to the MVP Foundation, they were the ones who upgraded the hospital. Ano na siya, pwede na siya yung dati, di ba, very limited. But they were, we're grateful to the MVP Foundation. But because of them, na-upgrade yung hospital. So pwede na siya marami. Yung hindi na gaya dati yung basic lang. Pero ngayon at least it can accommodate yung any health emergencies.
Yes. But can it accommodate a spike in possible COVID-19 patients when you open this to tourists?
So, of course, pagka ganyan na marami ng spike, they will be brought already to the hospital in Aklan, in Calibo. Oh,
I see.
Ito naman is just the basic.
Pero isa lang po yung hospital doon that we're talking about, ha?
Yeah. Yes. No, there's a one in in Boracay itself. There's a hospital in Boracay itself. But of course, hindi naman ito pang ICU. Hindi naman siyang pang ano. But then, pag kunyari magkaroon ng spike, let's say, or maraming positive cases, so that's when we look at the other hospitals in Aklan.
I see. We need to take a very short break. We'll be right back.
Yes.
You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Sec Berna, very quickly, do's and don'ts in Boracay. What activities are allowed?
Yung do's and don'ts, it's always the basic minimum health protocols. Wear a mask, keep a distance at least 1 meter, and always wash your hands. Minimum health standards. So, yun, that's what you always have to watch out for.
Yung pag naglalakad ho ba sa beach, Sec Berna, kailangan ho ba naka-face mask?
Kailangan naka-face mask. Kasi hindi mo, to be sure. Like for example, I was in Baguio in Burnham Park, lahat naka-face mask. Pero sa Burnham Park, kasi open air, wala namang face shield.
Okay. And last lang po, drinking, are the bars going to be allowed to open at night?
According to DTI guidelines, pag MGCQ, only 2 per guests na bottle. 2 glasses lang per guest.
Okay, got it.
According to DTI guidelines, yes.
Two glasses actually per person. So Zach,
Yes,
let me
that's
talk about
DTI
Baguio.
guidelines.
Sayang, no? It was supposed to open September 22, but this was delayed to October 1. I know you were just there, kakauwi nyo lang po. Sabi
Mm-mm.
ni Mayor Benji Magalong, nagkaroon daw kasi ng spike sa ilang mga barangay. So, what is the
Yes.
update on Baguio? Magbubukas ho ba talaga surely on
Yes.
October 1?
The target is October 1. Nagkaroon ng tumaas yung cases because nag-increase rin sila ng testing for COVID. And this was nakita na ni Mayor Magalong na it was in a slaughterhouse. So at least, this was not because of tourism,
Yeah.
obviously. It was because nag-increase siya ng mga testing. But he opted, but also some of the reasons were, that's why we both delayed it, was because we still have to synchronize the online system. In Baguio, they are only opening up 5 tourist spots. So we still have to synchronize. May mga kinks pa in the system. And we want sana mas pulido when we finally open up. But we are targeting October 1, but only for Region 1 first. And only 200 guests a day.
And are you looking at any other tourist destinations that may open after Baguio and Boracay?
Well, of course, Region 1. We have La Union, Pangasinan, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur. But of course, because we still have COVID, so we want to be very cautious, slow but sure. So iniingatan namin, like gaya nga ng sabi ni Mayor Magalong, 200 a day muna. Kung okay naman, he will increase. Kung hindi okay, he will decrease. Ganun din with the other provinces. You will calibrate it according to but of course now we always have to remind all the tourists, because everybody is excited now to get out of Metro Manila or just go on a break. Please remember, may COVID pa rin. So always wear a mask.
All right.
Watch physical distancing and wash your hands.
Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo-Puyat, ma'am, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pinky.
And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.